That music means it is time for a media timeout from your day. Welcome on in. This is Monumental Sports Network's newest women's basketball show. We delve into some of the top storylines in the WNBA. I'm Tyler Byrum and I cover the Washington Mystics. And right now, there is no bigger news across the WNBA than expansion. And I could not think of a better person to call up and discuss expansion with than Howard Megdal, the founder and editor of The Nine and the Next. Howard, welcome on in. Let's not delay this any longer. The WNBA is adding three new teams, and this is on top of Golden State joining the league this year, the Toronto Tempo and Portland team next year. In 2028, Cleveland will be returning to the WNBA. Detroit will too in 2029, and then Philadelphia will be getting its first team in 2030. So, Howard, why these cities? Why now?
It's a massive move, and it makes sense for a few critical reasons. Kathy Engelbert's been very clear about what she has wanted for expansion, even frankly, when people like us are pushing for, hey, when are you going to have expansion information for us? And what she kept talking about was needed to be market, needed to be a well-capitalized owner, and needed to be an owner who had a place for the teams to play. And so all three of these offer those opportunities. They all happen to be NBA owners, and we'll get into sort of why the infrastructure of that is important. But in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia, you have well-capitalized owners. You have a reported $250 million per expansion team, which is huge for the financial implications of the road forward for the WNBA. And you have fan bases who have essentially been able to prove themselves in different ways in each of the three, but in all three instances, a clear opportunity to service folks who want WNBA teams, and now they're going to have them.
And I think with these cities too, the scope that the league will be able to grow with is so huge. I mean, Philadelphia is the fifth largest media market in the
Mhm.
country. And I know that it doesn't have necessarily the history of women's basketball there. I mean, they obviously have Villanova and Temple, not as big as maybe some of the other localities that were pitching themselves for WNBA teams, but that's a big media market. And of course, we all know the success that Detroit has had in the past when they had a team of being able to put one together and compete for championships.
I I will push back gently on the idea that Philly doesn't have enough of a women's basketball history, only in the sense that there are a lot of ways in which Philadelphia has been synonymous with women's basketball. You can talk about the history of Dawn Staley, Gina Auriemma, Muffet McGraw, all coming out of Philly. The fact that one of the earliest college teams to succeed in the AIAW era in the 1970s was Immaculata, and what they were able to do under Kathy Rush's tenure with Marianne Stanley playing point guard there. So a lot of different ways that Philadelphia has been synonymous with women's basketball. It's also just a huge basketball town. It is the place of the Big Five. It is the place of the Palestra. And there is a real audience here that, again, I live just outside of Philly. So I'm seeing it. The question I get again and again when people find out what I do for a living is, hey, when is Philly getting a WNBA team? And I've always had to say, soon, I hope. And now I get to say 2030.
It always seemed like they were at the front of the line. Once
Yeah.
expansion started, they were one of the cities that everyone thought is like it's time for them.
Well,
Nostalgia. Sorry.
no, just to your point about it, I mean, it's the largest media market and the fifth largest media market in America, largest media market without a team, give or take a Houston, who, by the way, Kathy Engelbert, when we were there on Monday, was talking about is very much in the running going forward. It'll be interesting to see how they do that, whether that's through further expansion or a team that moves. But either way, you're looking at markets that the W can absolutely thrive in that are also the biggest markets in America. That's another shift in the way in which the WNBA thinks about its footprint overall.
I know the ball is just starting to roll for these teams, but nostalgia is such a driving force in sports. Any chance the old names, the Cleveland Rockers and the Detroit Shock get revived here?
Yeah, we had a story at the Next, our Thomas Costello, about the fact that the Cleveland Rockers trademark was picked up. And so there's an opportunity for that. I hope very much that the Detroit Shock are the ones who are picked because, for those listeners who may not know, the Detroit Shock were a massive success. And I don't just mean on the court, although they won three WNBA titles in '03, '06, and '08. But the all-time playoff crowd record is held by the Detroit Shock in Game 3 of the 2003 WNBA Finals. This is a team that had a massive following. There's a virtual alt history where Detroit never loses a WNBA team. It was sort of this perfect storm of things coming together. And so that city is absolutely built for not just looking forward, but looking back as well.
All right, let's go to our jump ball segment. So, Howard, who wins this jump? Yes or no? Is this the last expansion announcement we get for, let's say, the next 2 years?
That's a great question. That's I'm going to say yes. I think there is now a pathway through the end of the decade. I don't know that it's the last bit of information we'll get about new potential markets because I'm very curious to see how Houston is filled. Is that filled within the framework of the existing 18 teams? Is there something that comes with 2031? I wouldn't be shocked either way to see it, but I think in terms of expansion, 18 by 2030 feels like a really nice even number, and I like the idea of how that looks going forward. And I suspect the league does too.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. To be honest, though, I really don't know. But
Yeah,
the point of this question is that you have to pick a side. So I would
right.
lean yes that this is the last one. You know Commissioner Kathy Engelbert better than I do, and but in my experience of talking with her and interviewing her, she is someone that is just such an extraordinarily measured individual and always kind of wants to see the full picture and never be rushed into something before she makes the decision. So this is a big jump going from 12 to 18 in a 6 year span. I think it's time to let the dust settle a little bit before they kind of chart themselves forward. But that's just
Maybe.
me. And I say this and
No,
they're going to announce the team tomorrow.
I know, and certainly is very possible. I would say within the framework of understanding that if a year ago you had said there are three teams prepared to pay $250 million per expansion franchise, that's something that even the most optimistic folks about the WNBA might have said, wow, that seems a bridge too far. If you had said that the WNBA media rights deal would be worth what that has come to be worth, which is between 8 and 9 times what the last media rights deal was, and just a huge credit to how the league has put that together. You would say, wow, that's beyond sort of your wildest expectations. So I am reluctant to put a ceiling on those things. But yes, to your point, Kathy Engelbert likes to know where Z is when she starts from A. And so that's going to be, I think, a way forward, a framework of 18 by 2030.
Well, you're leading me right into the next topic I want to discuss. For a while, 16 was always the number. Kathy
Hmm.
Engelbert said that at the WNBA draft. By 2028, we're shooting for 16 teams. Last month, she visited DC to talk to local DC media here, and she continued that, saying 16 teams by 2028. What changed to have that number surge to 18?
Essentially the same thing that led to there not being expansion for several years into Kathy Engelbert's tenure. The measurement has never really been about this number by this time. It's always been about who are the owners who are best positioned to do this and do it right. And, in Philadelphia, for instance, there's an agreement made for a new arena that includes a provision for the WNBA team. So Adam Silver gets involved with that. Kathy Engelbert is directly involved with that. And Josh Harris puts together an agreement that allows the new arena to be built in South Philly. For a while, the conversation was building an arena, different places, around Chinatown, for instance, was the primary idea for a long time. Now it's going to be right there. If those of you who don't know Philly, it's right in that complex. There's public transportation where the Phillies play at Citizens Bank Park, where the Eagles play at Lincoln Financial Field, and now where the Sixers have been playing is going to be, give or take, it's in the parking lot essentially, where the Sixers and the WNBA team are going to play as well. That's a perfect situation. So if you don't take that opportunity at that moment, you're missing out on a chance to be part of the Philadelphia infrastructure for a long time to come. And it's a similar idea with the arena in Detroit, with the way in which Cleveland, and again, let's not lose sight of the fact that Cleveland was able to show with the 2024 Women's Final Four a huge appetite for women's basketball. Again, it's one of these things where you strike where there's a business opportunity. And to me, and certainly that's the way Kathy talked about it on Monday, that was where the WNBA came into play and making a smart decision for them at that time rather than, hey, let's hit this number by this time.
So then having kind of, because one of the questions I've received is why is the off year in 2027? Why are we adding two in 26, waiting in 27, and then 1 year after that? Is it simply just because that's the time that it plans out for these leagues to get things all together, or teams, I should say?
I wonder, and this is not a question that was answered on Monday, but I wonder if you gave truth serum to the top level WNBA folks, if they
I
want
would
to
love
say,
to give several people in our industry truth serum
you
hour.
and me both. I know. I don't even know where you get it these days. But you go and you said, hey, would you have preferred in retrospect to do it one team per year if we'd have seen it done that way in hindsight, And so you think about it's going to be a big thing for everyone to navigate with Toronto and Portland coming in the same year. There are challenges there for both teams. There are challenges for the existing teams as well. It's going to be a little bit bumpier. Certainly, we've seen more preparation early from Toronto than we've seen from Portland. It's going to be fascinating to see how they navigate that. And if anything, you now have a bit of consolidation ahead of 28, 29, 30, and they can take some of the lessons learned from this round of expansion and apply them to the next round.
All right, it's time to inbounds the ball. Let's move on. Last question here for you, Howard. And you have a lot of sources inside the industry. You have a lot of relationships with the players. As best as you can you kind of contextualize what this type of expansion means for the league, its players, its teams, and how it's different from the first round of expansion that we have with Golden State, Toronto, and Portland?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question because it really highlights the financial difference, right? It is scaling up. We are talking about a different league for the WNBA to be playing in now from an economic perspective. When you can add three expansion fees at $250 million a piece amid a time that there is an active CBA negotiation, that changes what the pot of money looks like, what the out years look like, how long you would be able to design a CBA for. All of these things are at play. And by the way, I really think it's worth giving the WNBA extra credit for this. They didn't try to hide the ball on this. They didn't try and wait until the CBA was done in order to bring in expansion. They're saying, and they're being upfront, this is what's coming. This is what we're going to be able to plan for through the end of the decade. And they're looking to partner with WNBPA to do this. There's always going to be back and forth during a CBA negotiation, but ultimately now everyone understands the landscape. This is where the media rights deal is. This is where the economics are on expansion. These are the number of roster spots per team potentially that we are negotiating, but we know the amount of teams that there will be. And going from 12 teams to 18 teams before you get into any changes in number of roster spots has every implication for the number of players who are going to be able to display their talent. So it's a huge win for players. Even if you end up at the same number of roster spots, that's between 33 and 36 more players who get the opportunity to play in this league by 2030.
And just to complete the picture there, let's remind everyone the CBA is up this year. They're currently negotiating a new one.
Mhm.
All the veterans in the league, except for a couple, are going to be free agents. So it's going to be an interesting time indeed with these expansion drafts that are coming through, these new deals, new league figures that we've never seen before. So it's going to be an interesting time over the next couple of years to kind of see it all kind of come together.
We have never seen, I would argue, in any professional league as much potential upheaval as you see right now. So if you are rooting for a team that is the very top of the WNBA standings, enjoy it in 2025, but there's no guarantees beyond it. And the flip side of it is for teams that are rebuilding, you have a chance to zoom. You have a chance to take a huge leap forward because to your point, essentially everyone in the league except for Lexi Brown and Kalani Brown are not signed beyond 2025 unless you're on a rookie scale deal. I mean, it's we've never seen anything like this. It's going to be nuts. I hope you weren't planning on sleeping this winter, Tyler, because I know I'm not.
Winter is when I'm supposed to get the sleep, Howard. But
Nope, not this year.
that is the whistle. Thank you for joining. We can follow all the work that your incredible team at the Next and the Nine does. First, go to thenexthoops.com. This is a big moment for the WNBA and a big benchmark for the journey that it took for the league to get back to this point. For everyone watching, thank you for taking this media timeout from your day. Now back to the action on the court.